The next article is a search for deterrence in the Red Sea. In this article, the writer says that the Houthi rebels in Yemen have been attacking merchant shipping using the Red Sea route, using drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles, ASBMS. The United States removed the Houthis from its terror list, but the US has now declared them a specially designated global terrorist group, potentially blocking their access to the global financial system. Trade disruptions are a growing concern in the Red Sea, with the impact on stability being immense and the trade being a growing concern. The modern weaponry being used and the inability of nations, both allies and strategic partners, to work together as a team despite the presence of maritime forces raise questions about the claim of high interoperability after years of joint defense exercises. The delayed international response to combat piracy has provided the pirates with time to adapt to modern technologies and adopt tactics such as hijacking ships and using them as motherships. This has facilitated mid-ocean attacks, increasing the high-risk area and resulting in multiple impacts on maritime trade such as rerouting and insurance costs. The same impacts are emerging with similar operational limitations as hijacked ships that could be used by the Houthis as motherships to launch attacks, and the presence of hostages on board would limit any hard power response to neutralize the threat. The present scenario, with Houthi rebels using drones and ASBMs, is of great concern. State support to Houthis makes things more complicated, which in this case points to Iran and possibly China. The supply of ASBMs points to China, which also raises the issue of missile technology proliferation. The Operation Prosperity Guardian, launched by the US, intended to operate under the Combined Maritime Forces (CMF) Combined Task Force 153, has seen a lackluster response from allies and strategic partners, instilling little confidence in the US's ability to drive international cooperative mechanisms to address situations that demand the use of hard power. Out of the 9 nations initially mentioned as part of the operation, 3 North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, allies of the US, France, Italy, and Spain, declined to be part of the operation and are operating independently. Bahrain, which houses the US 5th Fleet headquarters, is the only West Asian nation to be part of the operation. Saudi Arabia has not joined the operation, perhaps to avoid negative impacts on the Saudi-led negotiations on ending the ongoing war in Yemen. The next article is from the Hindu Business Line newspaper. That is, let's prepare for a millets decade. In this article, the writer says that the International Year of Millets in 2023 provided a global platform for millets and ensured worldwide recognition of their health benefits. It also created attractive options for consumers, with large multinational and Indian companies jumping on the platform. However, India is headed for a lower crop of millets in 2023, producing about 17 million tons of millets, mostly bajra, jowar, and ragi. India has a share of about 20% of total millet production globally, with Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Karnataka being the main producers. Preference for millets varies according to the producing region, cuisine, and climate. The Karnataka Millet Program and the Odisha Millet Mission are focused on ragi. The total allocation of food grains for PDS and other schemes is 70 million tons. The procurement of millets is insignificant compared to the demand for PDS, ICDS, and midday meal schemes. If millets have to make an impact, their production needs to be raised. The strategy should be production. The classic response to a production problem is the Green Revolution approach. Better seeds, higher irrigation, more fertilizers, and aggressive procurement. This approach could prove counterproductive from an ecological perspective. A better alternative would be to make millets the pivot for rain-fed agricultural development. Most rain-fed areas practice natural farming, which would be ideal for expanding the area under millets. Markets. Millets have become a buzzword in markets, but that alone is not sufficient. More efforts are required in terms of aggregation, processing, and marketing. Procurement at minimum support price and distribution through PDS, midday meal scheme, and ICDs are a good starting point. However, better value capture by farmers in the open market must be the focus. If this is not done, the old story of millets being relegated to poor woman's cereal will be repeated. The next article is Regional Turmoil. West Asia needs a security equilibrium with the Palestine issue at center. In this article, the writer says that the war on Gaza is no longer about Israel and Hamas, but rather the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Israel has carried out targeted strikes in Lebanon and Syria, killing Hamas, and Israeli commanders. Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq have attacked US forces in Syria and Iraq. The Houthis, Iran-backed rebels of Yemen, have turned the Red Sea into a battlefield. The US's airstrikes in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen seek to retaliate against Shia militias. As chaos and instability spread, Sunni Islamist militants attacked Iran, killing at least 100 people. The Middle East has become quieter than it has been in 2 decades, with the Abraham Accords on a strong footing and Saudi Arabia and Israel moving closer towards normalization. Iraq has become quieter. Gulf Arabs and Iran have reached rapprochement, and a ceasefire is holding in Yemen. However, most of these changes have ignored the oldest crisis in the region, Israel's continuing occupation of Palestinian territories. After 100 days of war with Hamas, Israel has achieved little in Gaza. The Houthis, a militia that survived 7 years of Saudi bombing, are unlikely to be deterred by America's strikes. Iran's inherent weakness makes it unpredictable. The old order, anchored by America's dominance, is in trouble. West Asia needs a new security equilibrium, an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and peace between Israel and Palestinians.